There have been some huge bans in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. The legendary Pokemon Chi-Yu has been banned because it's so hard to switch into. Annihilape, the evolution of Primeape, has been banned because of a combination of its bulk and Rage Fist, a move that can get up to 300 base power. Cyclizar, the new dragon normal that uses Shed Tail, has also been banned from OU. In UU, the new pseudo-legendary Baxcalibur has been banned because of how strong its Swords Dance and Dragon Dance sets are, combined with Terastallization. And Generation 5 pseudo-legendary Hydreigon has also been banned because it's just too hard to switch into in the UU tier. So let's take a closer look at these bans in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet singles. So a few days ago, I talked about the Pokemon that were on the radar to be banned. You have them all right here: Annihilape, Chi-Yu, Chienpao, Cyclizar, Dragonite, Espathra, Garganacl, and Goldengo. And today we have the results. The Annihilape and Chi-Yu as well as Cyclizar have been banned. I have Envy. What are your thoughts on those three Pokemon? Do they stand out the most on that list? We're going to obviously go in depth on this as well, just give our thoughts overall. If you missed our previous video discussing everything on this list, I'll link that down below too. Which one you happy about? Which one means the most to you?
Yeah, so I definitely think that Chi-Yu is was definitely one of the more broken Pokemon that I feel like should have been gone, and not too surprised about Annihilape and Cyclizar, but I think that overall it's gonna make kind of the game a lot easier to play. Well, I didn't really feel that Annihilape and maybe even Cyclizar were that broken. Not having to play Shed Tail is gonna be fun, and yeah, I guess Annihilape, we get to use Primeape.
I think as you even look at this is the OU Council, right? So they had to vote on this slate, and they're the people in charge of OU basically that make the decisions, decide if things get suspect tested or if things get voted on to be banned. If you look at every single thing on this list, the only Pokemon that actually got 9 bans across the board was Chi-Yu. Closest second was Annihilape, which had it went 8 and 9 in terms of votes, and we also have Cyclizar, which got 2 extra do not bans. Everything else basically got do not ban, do not ban, do not ban. Even Chienpao have 9 do not bans across the board, which is really interesting. Dragonite got the exact same thing, and those were the only Pokemon that got do not bans across the board besides Goldengo. So again, on this list, I think Chi-Yu, I think everybody can agree that Chi-Yu was, it's a legendary Pokemon, right? It was insanely powerful. And I think the difference between it and Chienpao was the fact that, we talked about it before, while Chienpao has the high speed and it's a physical attacker, I think that the higher base power of Overheat just really, really takes, even Flamethrower, right? When you look at Flamethrower versus all of Chienpao's moves, right? All Chienpao's most common moves, Crunch and Ice Spinner, are base 80. Flamethrower is just slightly stronger. Overheat is way stronger. So you have that as a nuke. You have unaware Pokemon. So if I go for Overheat versus an unaware Pokemon, they ignore the special attack drop. I can go for Overheat again. Chi is the type of Pokemon that if it hits a Pokemon with -2 Overheat, it can actually still kill them. Like Great Tusk can still die. And that's an example. Resistances take way too much. Roaring Moon takes like 55% from Specs Flamethrower. So maybe even more if they're not a bulkier variant, and depending on your nature. So Chi-Yu is definitely the Pokemon that I am okay with most on this list. Did I want anything banned? No, I'm really, really minimal when it comes to changes to a metagame. I didn't want anything banned personally. I loved using Chi-Yu. It's actually my favorite Pokemon besides Lokix and Chienpao to use in Scarlet and Violet, and a lot of that is because the ease of access to using, right? I bring it out, I click my stabs. Sometimes I Terra Fairy or Terra Grass to kill Dondozo. It's definitely one of the biggest stall killers just in itself, simply because there's no Pokemon that can really switch into 2 moves comfortably, even if it resists, right? Overheat does
I completely agree.
Yeah, Overheat does like 60% to Tinglu, but you were saying?
If I had it my way, I would have just had Chi-Yu gone and kept everything else, but this is actually gonna really change the way teams are made, because a lot of teams want to keep that really good special wall like Spadef Clodsire for that Chi-Yu, just to at least try to survive.
To check it.
I think things are gonna change now. Like Clodsire, for example, like it doesn't have to run all that Spadef. It's just gonna have to run enough for like Goldengo, perhaps, maybe. I don't really see a lot of like other huge special attackers like Chi-Yu that's like incredibly powerful as that. So things are going to probably be more defense heavy now, right?
Yeah, so before we actually go forward, if you guys are even a little bit intrigued in competitive Scarlet and Violet, or you like competitive discussions, or just battles and whatnot, I upload those every single day on the channel. So if you enjoy this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe. MV also uploads all the time on his channel as well. So subscribe to him as well if you do enjoy. But Chiyu, like you're mentioning, the metagame definitely changes when it comes to Chiyu. I will say though that Iron Valiant, Specs, Dragapult, Volcarona are still special attackers we will be seeing. They obviously don't hit as hard as Chiyu, but Specs Valiant, for instance, hits incredibly hard anyway. But Cyclizar doesn't really need Spit FEVs to be able to take that thing on. Like, it can still shift to a more defensive set for Psyshock while still walling those special attackers with relative ease. I just think that, like, the fatter teams definitely get better. However, we still have Chien-Pao, and I think that a lot of people are going to start wising up. You see do not ban across the board here. I think that this is the third on the radar for Chien-Pao. I think that we're going to see it on the fourth one, and eventually it will get suspect tested personally. I do think that that's what's going to happen. I think people are going to wise up to choice ban, Adamant, and Life Orb, Chien-Pao even more. And, I mean, Pokemon that get better, everything on this list, right? With Chiyu being gone, you have Golden Go getting right better. Scarf Golden Go gets better because Scarf Chiyu outs better. Even Nasty Plot variants get better too. Garganico, or Garganachi as my friends say, gets a ton better too with Chiyu being on, because Chiyu, even if Garg Terra to Fairy type, Specs Terra Dark Chiyu still does like 55% with Dark Pulse to Terra Fairy Garg. So it's pretty crazy to think about that. And obviously, I mean, Dragonite got nothing. Dragonite gets a lot better, right? Roost, Dragonite, Dragonite literally would switch into Chiyu and with multi-scale and take 2 Fire Moves or 2 Dark Pulses, depending on if it's Specs or not. If it's Specs, that's a different story. But if it's Scarf, it takes 2. So they definitely get a ton better. But what are your guys' thoughts down below on the Chiyu ban? That's the one that I'm okay with, and like I understand, right? Something needed to happen about Chiyu, whether it be banned or be suspect tested. I want to know your thoughts. I want to know your thoughts if you play singles. I also want to know your thoughts if you're just a casual watcher. And maybe it's rude to say casual because technically this is the made-up metagame that we play, 6v6 singles. But it's also one that has a community throughout 10 plus years, and it's what my channel is about. So I would like to know your thoughts as maybe a competitive VGC player or a Battle Stadium singles player. Or maybe just watch Pokemon on TV. And rest in peace, Ash. He's not dead, but he's going to be gone. So what are your thoughts on the Chiyu ban? Now, Chiyu, I would say most likely down below, I'm going to make a prediction that 70% of people are going to agree with it being gone, right? I think that 70% of people are going to agree with it being gone. But this is where it gets controversial. We're not going to go Annihilape next. We're going to go Cyclizar. Now, MV, summarize our brief thought, or summarize our thought. Summarize our brief. What is that? Okay, summarize our thoughts on Cyclizar. Why it should have been banned or not, and we'll look at what they have to say here. But go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, I didn't think it had to have been banned. I didn't think the mon was broken in itself. I do think that it's gonna make things a lot easier now that Shedtail is gone. A lot of these mons below that were being on the radar were Pokemon that really benefited, especially like Dragonite and even like Nasty Plot, Golden Go, and even perhaps a Spathra. They all benefit really well from Cyclizar's Shedtail. And a lot of these offensive mons, even like Annihilape, doesn't matter. But I do think that we didn't feel that Cyclizar needed to be banned. We felt that Shedtail did, but I don't know, there's some dispute about that as well. But with Shedtail being gone, I mean, I think it really kind of opens up a lot of different ways of playing now. Or I guess it doesn't have to really deal with it or have to look out for that. So you don't really easily get flustered too much in a battle these days with Shedtail teams. But you do have Earthworm, of course.
Which is it's still viable. Like it could still.
It's still viable, yeah, but it's not as.
It's not fast. It doesn't have Regenerator.
I do think Shedtail plus Regenerator combination was pretty bad.
But I will also say, if this thing on did not have Shedtail, it would not even be OU. It would not be on this list. It might be on the RU list, but
correct.
Definitely.
Yeah,
because
I think people are giving arguments like, oh, like, well, what if Dragonite had Dragonance banned, or what if that's like that's just
some mons get that versus what Shedtail actually does.
I mean, if there was such a thing as a beta game where like I'm just talking about Pokemon, trying to include as many Pokemon as possible in the OU tier that doesn't need to be banned. Like like for example, like if you ban Last Respects from Houndstone, it wouldn't be broken. You can keep it in there, and it's not like a legendary or Uber or some kind of like Miraidon kind of mon. You know what I mean? So like Yeah, like stuff like things that got banned in the past, like Magearna and Zygarde and stuff like that. Yeah, you could put them in Uber, sure. Like I mean, they're broken, they're legendary Ubermons, and I don't know. I just like different ways of thinking, maybe to try to include more Mons, but yeah,
Yeah, I think
that's just
complex
my
bans are
opinion.
fine, right? At the end of the
Yeah.
day, the people who are going to play on Pokemon Showdown and actually care about OU and stuff are people who are going to understand and be stopped by the team builder. That's the big thing too, right?
Mhm.
In terms of like one of the things back in the day was they didn't want confusion with things. But the if I try and use an illegal combination and ignore the fact that there's a Ledian on this team, I was just really sad about it sucking. If I try and use an illegal combination, right? I choose a battle, I try and find a battle. There's going to be a pop. This is just an example right here. This is taking a little bit longer to get this pop up. There's going to be a pop up right here that tells me what's wrong with my team. Ledian does not exist in Gen 9. No, what's wrong with my team is Ledian doesn't have a buff in 17 million generations. But in terms
Yep.
of Cyclizar, obviously, in terms of where this Pokemon will fall later, probably UU, RU type of thing. I could definitely see it being U. It's not going to stay OU, but I can definitely see it being UU as a rapid spin and just spinner, even RU, U-turn, knockoff, taunt, utility, obviously, and even shift gear sets in lower tiers can definitely do something. Cyclizar's not going to stay OU for the majority of the next shift. This is 8 days into the new tier shifts, so it will be falling eventually down. I think in terms of the meta game itself, we're going to see a lot less of dual screens being as prominent because usually the team would be Grimmsnarl for dual screens, Cyclizar for Shed Tail into your Annihilape, into your Volcarona setup. We're going to see a lot less hyper offense in that regard. I don't think dual screens is dead at all by any means, but you just lost your Rapid Spinner for dual screens and you just lost your Shed Tail Passer, your Taunter, your Knock Offer for a dual screen. So it definitely changes dual screens as a whole. And honestly, the biggest thing that changes dual screens and just play styles in general, but Annihilape has also been banned. And this is also something that I'm iffy about, right? Annihilape is a really good Pokemon. I think that earlier it was a lot more busted, especially when it hit rank 1 on the Pokemon Showdown ladder. And the most common sets are Bulk Up, Rage Fist, Drain Punch, Taunt. You also have Rest over Taunt. Sometimes you also have the lead set with Final Gambit or just Close Combat lead Focus Sash. Very, very good. Can Terra Water as well to live Chi use Overheat and just become Suicune at that point, right? That's like or Toxapex, right? You become a water type, you're a good Pokemon. There's, you eat Volt Switches for days from Rotom. And I will say that I feel like in Annihilape's case, and again, with dual screens, this is one of the bigger things, right? This is one of the big paths. Like, you typically see dual screens, Grimmsnarl, Cyclizar into Annihilape. And Annihilape you saw on basically any team, right? Annihilape could be on offense. Annihilape could be on bulkier teams. And I've even seen Annihilape on semi-stall. So, this Mon, the big thing about it is its bulk, which is incredible, and also its Rage Fist. Rage Fist starts at 50 base power. The more you get hit, it can go up to 350 base power, if I'm not mistaken. 300 base power. 300 base power.
Yep.
Rage Fist can go up to 300 base power, and just for being hit. So you hit this thing with a super resisted U-turn, right? A 4 times resisted U-turn. Rage Fist is now 100 base power. You've gone for knockoff on it. Yeah, you got rid of its item. Rage Fist is now 150 base power. It's also a ghost type, which is really nice because it can block catches, which is why it's also really good for hyper offense too, right? Like, you can run Golden Go plus Annihilape, so your opponent could basically never spin. You bring this thing on Great Tusk Earthquake. If it is offensive, it will 2-hit KO you, which is one thing that's big. And if offensive ones are fast, then they can also tear it ground. But Ape is typically the type of Mon that can easily tank hits, especially with Light Screen Reflect, right? You got to remember that your attacks are being weakened versus this Pokemon. Was it deserving of being banned? Should they do something complex of Rage... Not even complex, right? Just ban Rage Fist, right? Because only this and Primeape has it. And I will say that in RU, Primeape with Rage Fist is not bad at all. Like, it's definitely a threat, but that's of course a lower tier, right? That's not OU, so that doesn't really affect it at all. But with terrestrialization, they wanted to do something about Ape. They opted for Ape being banned. Thoughts, Envy?
Yeah, this is one I'm a little bit more conflicted on, just because Annihilape is one of my favorite mons from this gen, and I feel like the play style or just playing around it is still kind of evolving and changing. Like, we thought it was it was completely broken at first because we didn't really know how to handle it, and I feel like we do have a better idea of how to do that now, a better grasp of how to beat Annihilape. And also, I think one thing to mention in addition to what you were saying was also like the Revival Blessing implementation
Yes.
can also, bring back Annihilape and continue its Rage Fist base power
Yeah.
from where it left off
It
when
stacks,
it painted.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's definitely something that we've seen teams carry, and it just makes Annihilape all the more powerful. I don't think it's broken, in my opinion, but I do think that it's really, really good. I don't know. I feel like maybe it could have stayed around longer just to kind of seen how, because the metagame is still evolving. I mean, we're getting Pokemon that are being introduced like just free, like very
Couple weeks or months,
periodically.
depending. Yeah, every week.
Exactly.
Yeah, every month, excuse me. We're getting a new one too.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I hope that maybe it'll get retested sometime, or I guess tested to begin with. But I don't know.
I do also think that, I mean, they say it right here, right? Passive sources of damage such as Rocky Helmet or Garganical Salt Cure can be very effective against it. Rotom can, if Annihilape tries to taunt Rotom on a Will-O-Wisp, Rotom can Volt Switch to potentially get in range of like Chi-Yu or Force a Terra type or anything. I don't think Annihilape was ever impossible to beat. This is not, like I said, the earlier meta or even a month or two ago, right? That's still earlier meta, right? Obviously, we're only 2 months into it, but a month ago versus a month of playing the metagame and adapting, I don't think Ape was that broken, personally, right? But I will say that whenever I saw a lead Stealth Rock Ape, I was like, oh, this is easy. This is not
like this is easy. Let's two-shot this real
look
quick.
at that! Look at that Aerodactyl on the other side. Like, what is it about a new lead Aerodactyl as a Pokemon? For those that understand that,
I know.
you know what?
Yeah.
We're 16 minutes in. If you're not subbed to my channel or care about this, you're not even gonna get here. So I'm not even gonna explain the lead Aerodactyl comparison right there. But though, if you are watching at this point and you're not already subs and you don't actually play singles, I'd love for you to say I am watching down below, just because I like to get these analytics and understand. I'm not asking.
And I want you all to say what's pop and say what's pop. Say I made it here. What's pop and say that.
We're only 16 minutes in, so this is really crazy because last time we were at 55 minutes and asked this. We don't know how long this video is going to be. But yeah, in terms of it, I agree with MV. I think counterplay is adapting and what's happening. Like, I mean, when I saw Ape, I just remembered, hey, don't attack it, like, or deal with it with passive recoil, or hey, if I have to sacrifice one Pokemon to beat a Pokemon, that's not broken. That's just playing Pokemon versus an offensive threat. But of course, it's a defensive threat as well. I do also think that if Cyclizar had been banned this cycle and Annihilape had stayed, I also don't think that Annihilape would have been banned next cycle either, because getting rid of Shed Tail Pass into Ape that's
already a huge nerf in itself for a lot of these like offensive teams and a lot of these setup sweepers.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, it's crazy. So what are your options now? Well, I'm glad you asked, my friends. You have Primeape, a Violet Primeape, 5 base higher speed than Annihilape though, so you can outrun your Golden Goes. All right.
Let's ignore that. Let's ignore that part for a bit. But he does bring up a good point. What's going to happen now? So as I mentioned before, I think that Chien-Pao is going to start running the metagame in terms of offense, right? I think that Chien-Pao is already a freaking good Pokemon. One of my favorite my favorite team on this meta had Choice Band Chien-Pao plus Choice Scarf Chi-Yu, not even Specs Chi-Yu, and they would just dominate. And most of the time on that team, I would be excuse me, I would be terroring my Chien-Pao to Terra Dark and clicking Adamant Crutch into it, KOing most of the metagame. So I think that gets a ton better. Iron Valiant gets a ton better too. Doesn't have to worry about Shed Tail Pass into Volcarona and letting it set up under screens. Doesn't have to worry about Scarf Chi-Yu revenge killing it, right? That's a pretty big thing as well. And also, if there is a shift from special defensive to physically defensive Pokemon to deal with Chien-Pao and things like that, that's obviously great because Iron Valiant is one of the few mixed Pokemon that still is around, right? One of a true mixed, literally a mixed attacker, one of the true mixed attackers. So this Pokemon in particular gets a ton better. I think also Golden Go, not only just Scarf gets a ton better as well because it doesn't have to worry about it, but Specs as well. Specs isn't something that we've seen a ton of usage of as of late, but I think that both Specs and, in my opinion, my favorite set, not in my opinion, but it is my opinion, but my favorite set is the Nasty Plot Covert Cloak one because it switches in on Garganicals, Salt Cure, and the turn ends after you take 3%, right? And Nasty Plot flying, so you can deal with Great Tusk. You take on extra Shadow Balls from opposing Golden Go, so he's Terra into flying. So I do think that version of Golden Go gets a lot better, especially because it doesn't have to worry about ever being revenge killed from the strong special attacker that is Chi, right? Ting Lu. Ting Lu's another Pokemon that gets a ton better defensively because what was it there to do? It was there to tank a hit from Chi and also just set up hazards, right? Now it still tanks hits from everything in the metagame, but it doesn't have to worry about, that chunk, that 40, 50, 60%, right? Unless it's switching into Iron Valiant. There's very few, or Chien-Pao. There's very few Pokemon in the meta that will be doing that much to this Pokemon. And then also, Garganacl gets a ton better, right? It's not set up fodder for Annihilape behind a Shed Tail, or doesn't have to worry about this Mon doesn't have to worry about Chi-Yu smashing it after it tears into Fairy with a Specs Overheat. So those guys get a ton better. Anything else that kind of sticks out to you, bro?
So I guess to add on, so the Ting Lu, right, with Annihilape, it doesn't have to worry about getting taunted with the whirlwind and everything like that. So the Annihilape being gone, it's like it doesn't become setup fodder basically.
Yeah.
And let's think here. So I do think that
I'd say the Dragonite's variant of Dragonite that runs Extreme Speed, Earthquake, Roost, very good too. And I think that we might see that set even more just because Chien-Pao is going to be rising even more. So the Dragonite's Extreme Speed, Terra, Normal, Earthquake, Roost doesn't have to worry about not doing any damage to Annihilape, doing only 40% with EQ as Annihilape bulks up in front of you, is immune to your Extreme Speed, boosts its Rage Fist, and then also now has a super effective Drain Punch because you've Terra'd into Normal. I think that's a pretty big thing.
I'm looking at the UU tier just to trying to see. Do you think that with Cyclizar being gone, that if people want to use Shed Tail, there's going to be more usage of Orthworm, and do you think that it's going to move up, or do you think it's going to stay in its place?
I don't think that it will. Like, Orthworm did BOU. I speak English. Was OU. I mean, you know what? To be honest, I'm a firm believer, and this has nothing to do with it. But if you're out there learning English and somebody makes fun of you, I just made fun of myself. But like, as long as I understand what you're saying, who the hell cares, right?
Yeah.
I'll type stupid if I have to. Like, I type very dumb to MV, but he figures it out because he gets to
actually decipher. Because I've known him for like 12 years. I've deciphered every single.
Yeah, if you didn't know me, you'd think I'm drunk all the time. But no, I just can't be asked when on the phone. But I do think that Orthworm will see a little bit of usage. No, do I think it'll be high tier? No. Did I think it'll move to OU? It would have to get number 1, and that team would have to be on you'd have to get like an RMT. Rate my team. Yeah, it'd have to get an RMT for it to really be used. Kind of like that Annihilape first Chien-Pao Palmot team. I also think in that regard, Palma Revival Blessing gets better too, because damn did those teams hate being Scarf Chi-Yu'd at the end, right? Being slurped up by Scarf Flamethrower, Dark Pulse from Chi. So Revival Blessing gets better, also gets worse in a regard because the Cyclizar, the Shed Tail Pass isn't going to be there. And then lastly, I will say that maybe something like Baxcalibur gets good again too, right? Like I can see it Dragon Dancing up and doing things because one of the it doesn't have to worry about like being outsped at +1 by Chi-Yu, right? Or giving a boost if it's running the loaded dice set, my new favorite set. So Bax might even see it. And we'll go for this. What are you guys' thoughts on the metagame though? How do you think it's going to change? What do you think is going to rise up? Again, for me, Chien-Pao is probably going to rise up as pretty high usage in my opinion. I think Garg is going to get even stronger right now. But again, in terms of Annihilape, I do think that counterplay was still evolving. I still think we were figuring things out. And with Cyclizar having been banned, I do think we would have been able to kind of find a way. Like, yes, you can argue that, okay, yeah, but Chi-Yu was one of its main ways of nuking it. Sure, but the way I like to use Chi-Yu versus it was I would bring it out and then switch hard into my Rotom instead of attacking it as they Terra Water, and then Volt Switch for the super effective hit into Specs Chi-Yu and then click Dark Pulse, right? Like, it wasn't, and this isn't like, oh my god, no, that's too elaborate. No, this is a common thing that happened multiple times. Because you can force Terra.
I have a feeling Bulk Up Great Tusk might really be good too, because being gone for revenge, I think Bulk Up Great Tusk is a really good option, which no more Annihilape Bulk Up if you bulk up Great Tusk instead, you can't have Chi revenge you. Cyclizar can't Shed Tail or anything
You
like
can
that.
Terra to beat Iron Valiant to steal.
Terra to beat Iron Valiant.
Yeah.
Terra to beat Chen Pao.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I mean, you beat Champ Pao naturally. Like, it's not going to kill you from flow anyway. But
Yeah.
unless it's like Adamant Choice Band, Terra Ice. But I agree with you. And actually, that's a very good comment. You might not see random Terra Waters on Pokemon. Like, Great Tusk already ran Terra Steel. But now I can definitely run Terra Steel to deal with the Pokemon that might revenge kill it in like Golden Go, clicking, Make It Rain. But more importantly, to be able to hit hits. Why am I forgetting the Pokemon off the top of my head? Basically, it doesn't have to Terra Water to live in overheat from Chi-Yu. So that is a very good analysis. I agree with that. And Great Tusk is already #1 in usage in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Now, let us move on to the UU quick bans. One last note I want to add before we actually get into UU. Ceruledge gets better too. It's not like Ceruledge was bad, right? It would run that bulk up, Terra Bug, or Fairy Taunt set or Swords Dance sets, but I think that Swords Dance sets in particular get better because they don't have to worry about taking an extra hit from Chi-Yu and Bitter Blading back, right? Like, Shadow Sneak is what I'm trying to get at. That's like one of the main mons. I could eat a Sneak and do a ton with Dark Pulse, even if it, like I said, even if it Terra'd into a Fairy type here. And the set I'm talking about is Bulk Up, Taunt, and this is a very common set, probably its better set in the tier. Bitter Blade and Shadow Sneak. I'm sorry I didn't talk about this being OU last time. This is one of its better sets. Terra Fairies or Terra Bugs to set up. If Terra Bugs, it sets up on Great Tusk. Usually leftovers for longevity. And then you have some random EV spread, Spadef usually, so you can eat the special hits. And if you Terra Fairy, obviously you have to worry about Golden Go, but you didn't have the boost of Shadow Sneak as long as you're +2, if you're +3, you can knock out Golden Go after a little bit of chip. Because they don't run a lot of attack. If you do run attack, you can do that. But this doesn't have to worry about if it's Terra Bug, being Specs Dark Pulse and taking a lot of damage from Chi-Yu, but also something stopping it is easier, right? Like Cyclizar being gone also makes this thing better because it doesn't have to worry about Cyclizar coming in and Shed Tail passing freely to something. And not like the sub won't be broken, but at least it can sub and get something in free. Like if an Annihilape comes in for free behind a sub and can Terra and bulk up after, it will beat you 1v1, right? Because if it Terra Waters, your Bitter Blade is resistant, all it's doing is boosting it, and also Shadow Seek is not very effective. But this Pokemon Ceruledge gets better. Now, UU had a slate recently as well. And it's really funny that the two pseudo-legendaries got banned, and I actually agree with both of them. But Baxcalibur, Hydreigon, Gengar, Pelipper, and Floatzel. Pelipper was, and I'll give you a quick little rundown. Pelipper was there because of the fact that Rain was busted with Floatzel, right? Floatzel is the best Swift Swimmer currently in UU and in OU right now, which is awesome. Power to Floatzel, cool Pokemon. I love Buizel a little bit more though. But with Terra, Water, and also the addition of Wave Crash is stronger than Adamant Floatzel, even though it's weaker than Barraskewda points-wise, is stronger because of Wave Crash than Adamant Liquidation Barraskewda. Right. So they were deciding, was it Rain that was broken? Was it Floatzel that's broken? Turns out they got no bans across the board. Gengar was also on that list too. Gengar obviously having Terra, so it doesn't have to worry about Focus Blast, or even getting Stab on Focus Blast, or getting Double Stab on Ghost is always good too. And Poison, Gengar ended up being no ban. But the two Pokemon that had bans across the board were Baxcalibur and Hydreigon. Now, Baxcalibur, I used it recently in a video. If you guys want to check it out and see it in action in UU, it was insanely good. It was insanely
Loaded
good.
Dice.
Yeah, we used Loaded Dice, Icicle Spear, Glaive Rush, and Earthquake, Thermal thingy, and you could also use Chili. Some people actually use Chili Reaction.
Chili Reception.
It's Reception. What am I, dude? I'm sorry, guys. It's early. I'm sorry. It's early. I'm mixing up my words. You can hear my voice guys early, but Chili Reception early for us because we stayed up late playing Pixelmon.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did. But Chili Reception, which sets up Hail or Snow, excuse me, in this generation, and also brings out Slowking into the Ice type, and with Baxcalibur being an Ice type, it gets a 1.5 times defense boost under Snow. So it's pretty
significant. Yeah.
Yeah, it lets it set up on even like Gyro Balls as long as they don't Terra in front of like a Fortress. And,
well, we did.
Yeah, and like physical, you can even take a Gigaton Hammer from Defensive Tinkaton, which is like the #1 most used Pokemon. Tinkaton in this tier is what Great Tusk is in OU. So, not to mention there were Swords Dance sets. There were also Sub-Dragon Dance sets with leftovers and Ice Body, which took advantage of Chili Reception too, because not only did it get the defense raise, but it also got recovery turn per turn with both leftovers and Ice Body. So very, very good Pokemon. If it Terra'd, it was insane, right? You could either Terra Ground or Terra Fire. Terra Fire allow you to deal with Tinkaton plus Bronzong in one, and also Orthworm in one. And excuse me, my throat. But also, if you go Terra Ground, Earthquake is insane stab, right?
Yeah,
all your
very
stab,
powerful.
all your stab becomes 100 base power or higher because of loaded dice icicle spear. Because loaded dice means you'll always hit 4 or 5 times. So your moves are either your icicle spear is either, it doesn't miss, either 100 base power or 125 base power. So with Terra Ground, all your moves are over 100 base power. It's insanely strong, very, very bulky because it's a pseudo legendary. And honestly, I mean, I uploaded my video. This is why Baxcalibur will be banned. That was like 2 days ago, and it got banned. There was no way this Pokemon was staying UU. Absolutely zero way, especially with Terra. Like, and if you Terra Dragoned, I want to say, you broke through Steel types easily. Like, Glaive Rush is insanely strong. You're getting basically adaptability on that. Insane, absolutely insane with that. Plus, Glaive Rush plus 1, even choice band sets. Now, thoughts on Baxcalibur, or do you just want to go right into Hydreigon? Because I feel like Bax was just broken.
I completely agree with Baxcalibur. If you guys want more proof on that, just literally watch the loaded dice Baxcalibur video we did. It was absolutely insane. The Mon is so good and very difficult to take down, and especially with Ice Body and stuff like that, with hail, or sorry, with snow. It was crazy. Like, that Mon is just super good. I'm not surprised it's gone at all.
Yeah, not at all. Thermo Exchange is insane too, dude. Like, being immune to Will-O-Wisp, beautiful.
Yeah,
Getting
immune to Will-O-Wisp, and you get an attack boost. Yeah, attack boost from the fire attack. Like, oh wow.
Actually,
if only cure him. If only cure him.
It's physically cure him though. I mean, not that cure him didn't Dragon Dance and do Icicle Spear stuff too.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Thoughts on Hydreigon, bro?
Hydreigon's a really good Mon. I know that in UU we have, I think, used it once or twice before, like something like that. But I remember it not having a lot of great switch-ins at all, especially with Nasty Plot. I don't know. So I do think that, you know, both of these Pokemon, Baxcalibur and Hydreigon is just extremely powerful. A lot of great setup opportunity. You know, it's able to have the coverage to deal with fairy types, like with the Flash Cannon and
can Terra Steel, yeah, can Terra Steel or Terra Poison if it wants to.
Yeah, Translation makes this Mon so much better. I mean, it was really good in OU too, but yeah, like Hydreigon, I think it, like, I'm just looking at the UU tier, and I don't know, bro. I feel like this Mon definitely.
It's just good. Dark Pulse and Flash Cannon. I mean, they wrote it right here. Dark Pulse and Flash Cannon deal with everything. Azumarill and Palmot both moved up to OU, which was big, right? Palmot being faster and can knock it out with close combat, even if it Terra Steals. And Terra Steel was really good because you're immune to Earthquake because of your Levitate ability. So it was really nice. You're resistant to Fairy after that. You're resistant to Dragon. So it's very, very nice for this Pokemon. Obviously, Azu resists both, is immune to Draco Meteor and resists Dark Pulse. So them losing that. Hydreigon is a good speed tier too. Only Pokemon, like, it's actually faster than Tinkaton, which is pretty big because Tinkaton's really fast. But only Pokemon like Staraptor and higher than that outspeed it. And there's always like the fact that Specs can Terra Dark. That's a big thing too. Like,
and just
Choice
hit
Specs can Terra Dark, and just,
hard.
Yeah, even on resistances, it's insanely strong. Because like Hydreigon is a that Mon's a demon. That Mon's a demon. That Mon is
Medusa, 3-headed.
It's quite literally the demon of the tier.
The fact that they lost Azu, bro. The fact they lost Azu, like, especially because I think Azu is one of the best, if not the best, check to Hydreigon that's around. Well, it was around in that tier. So losing that just I don't know. It shifted the balance of the scales. It made Hydreigon crazy.
Yeah, I also want to say that I think, don't quote me on this, but Hydreigon might have the highest special attack of all pseudo legendaries. That might have changed, but I know back in Gen 5 that was the case. So it's been a while. It's been a while since.
I'm trying to fact check you. Fact check Joey Poke.
Let's check. I'm literally curious. What are the ones after Gen 5? The pseudos after Gen 5. So this month.
Pseudos after Gen 5.
We have Como.
Yeah, I don't think that's definitely not as high.
100.
I think.
Obviously, and then who's
no,
after
I think
that?
you're right. I think you're right, bro. I'm looking at it right now.
Is there any other ones that are higher that comes to mind? I'm trying to think, like, because Como had 100, right? And then in this generation we have Baxcalibur. Baxcalibur has 75. So
yeah, in this gen there's nothing. It's Hydreigon's at 125. There's nothing that there's no pseudo legendary higher.
Yeah, Gudra's 110. I think it's the highest when it comes to pseudo legendary, because a lot of them are physical or mixed. Hydreigon can do both, but they gave Hydreigon. I mean, Gen 5 they were wild. like with evolution levels and things like that too. But it's crazy. But yeah, so Hydreigon being banned, Baxcalibur being banned, I think it opens up a lot of team compositions for the UU tier. I think it's pretty big because bulkier teams can actually, balance can actually survive, right? I do think that Gengar, Floatzel, and just Rain in general are still very, very strong. Gengar will be a little bit better of a special attacker. Doesn't have to worry about Hydreigon terroring to live. If it wants to run Dazzling Gleam, or if it's not, or if it's Specs and Sludge Bomb trying to a KO, and Terra poisons or steals, obviously it's immune to that or resistant to it, depending on what you go for. I do think the UU tier frees up quite a bit more. I also think, like I said, defensively, a lot of the Mons get better. I mean, Tinkaton, right? The number one used Mon gets even better because it doesn't have to worry about Terrafire, Baxcalibur, or just a boosted Hydreigon or even a Specs one destroying it. So what are your guys' thoughts on the UU tier? How will UU shape from there? And I think, do you have anything else to add, bro?
Yeah, with these two mons being gone, I think definitely it's going to make a lot of these more defensive mons, and also the steel types in general, like Tinkaton and maybe even Fortress and stuff like that, a lot better. Just because I think there was a lot of good counterplay to these mons, especially like with what these things can do, and just Terra in general like that. Like Terra types and stuff like that just really kind of take these mons to a new level. So it just makes it a lot better, I think, for the metagame.
Yeah, I mean, I think that every time we played UU, whether it be on stream or whether it be in the video, Hydreigon was probably the most annoying Pokemon to always fight.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
Quite literally. Besides like in Espathra, but Espathra is banned. So now we have 3 Pokemon in UUBL: Baxcalibur, Hydreigon, and Espathra, and they probably all deserve to be there. Now, I have a question for everybody that got this far, and if you did get this far, feel free to answer the question down below. Will Staraptor end up in UUBL before the end of this generation? Will Staraptor be banned from UU like it's been every single generation since Generation 4? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you everybody for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure you subscribe to my channel, subscribe to Envy. I'll have another video later today up as well, and a stream. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.
Bye.